Following Penn State's overtime loss to Oregon in Happy Valley in the face of a whiteout last weekend, most of college football was exclaiming, same old Penn State. Same old Penn State. Now 15-31 against ranked teams, 4-21 against top 10 teams, 1 and a zillion against top 5 teams. Penn State is still really good. They played Oregon to the wire. They outplayed them in the fourth quarter. They are Penn State. They are Penn State, what Penn State has been under James Franklin in recent years. They're going to go 10-2. They're going to go to Columbus. They don't stand a chance. They're going to lose in some fashion. They won't lose 50-0. They're going to play the Buckeyes close. They're going to lose just because it's what Penn State under James Franklin, and especially with Drew Aller at quarterback, that's what Penn State does. They're good. They're top 7, 8 good in the country. But they can't beat elite competition when it counts in the clutch. And the window dressing of a 12-team college football playoff in 2024 simply meant that Penn State, with a new Big Ten scheduling format, did not have to play Michigan, did not have to play another elite Big Ten team besides Ohio State during the regular season, i.e. Oregon. Therefore, they could go 11-1. They could go to the college football playoff, something that they would have qualified for a record 6 times out of 10 years among teams that did not make the playoffs. And then they showed us 2 victories in the playoffs that they would have won in any other season against Boise State and SMU, not against real quality power conference competition. Roll into this season, and Clemson, they're another story. Texas, they're another story. And Penn State, those were the 3 teams that Vegas was telling us one of those 3 will win the national championship. And so Penn State welcomed Oregon, and really a new for primetime quarterback Dante Moore to the stage, and Dante Moore ripped them up, and Oregon won, as many of us expected, because we've seen this play out so many times. Penn State loses. They play well in spots. They compete. They take it down to the wire, but they blow it. Who saw today coming, though? Today is a new brand of Penn State futility. Let it sink in, soak it in, realize how atrocious today's performance by Penn State was. Maybe we should have seen this coming. They laid it out there on the field in the whiteout. It's difficult to travel 3 time zones. But no, we couldn't have seen this coming. UCLA was just so incredibly bad, so atrocious. This was the UCLA that, even though Penn State was, in a sense, an under-the-radar kind of smirk, wink, wink, laughingstock of college football, because, hey, we know that they're going to be in it the entire season. They're going to go to the playoff. They're going to have a sterling record, and then they'll figure out a way to blow it to somebody like they did against Notre Dame in the semifinal last year on an interception with the game on the line. They're going to do that again, of course, because they just did it against Oregon last week. This just keeps happening and happening. But not this, not UCLA. This could not have come against a more apropos opponent for this to have maybe come to a different level, a different degree for Penn State football. These are the games that Penn State wins, obviously. These are the games that they sleepwalk through. This was a game that I left off of my prediction sheet because Penn State was a 24-point favorite, and I thought, yeah, they'll win this game 30-6. I don't know how to pick this game one way or the other, so why throw it out there for my patrons to take in for a prediction? I'll probably miss it because I'm just flipping a coin. It's Penn State. They're going to beat UCLA. We know that. Are they going to take care of business? No, they'll sleepwalk through this game. And then I started to see the scores roll in because I was watching Alabama Vandy and Florida Texas. Score after score after score after score. And I could not believe what I was seeing. I could not believe it because, again, if this was against a ranked opponent, a good opponent, a strong opponent, then I would have said, well, that's Penn State. But no, Penn State wins this game. There's going to be a litany of statistics that are going to roll out following this Penn State loss. I've already seen some of them. Maybe if you have seen more of them. One is that the last time that an unranked team lost to a top 7 opponent in the country or defeated a top 7 opponent in the country, go back to 1985 when UTEP beat BYU. I know that I was keeping track of a stat here in the last couple of years, and I lost track of it because it was mounting past 40 or 45. The number of games that Penn State had won in the Big Ten against everybody not named Ohio State or Michigan. It was like clockwork. Of course this team was going to go 10-2 and go to the playoffs. They lost against UCLA. Again, a team that fired its head coach, a team that nobody cares about, nobody shows up for. The university has turned its back on, apparently. The fans certainly have. If there are UCLA fans in Southern California, they long since forgot about UCLA football. A team that lost to the likes of New Mexico State as a 25-point favorite, losing by 25 points, losing all of its games, losing to the other worst team in the Big Ten, Northwestern. Just a complete mess. A complete yawner. This was the game that, why did CBS choose this? Well, because Penn State's got a brand and because UCLA's in a major market, so they chose this game. I don't know what to tell you about Penn State football now. This is one of the most embarrassing losses in the history of recent college football. It certainly is, because the other ones that we would point to were isolated. Jim Harbaugh, when he was building Stanford into a power, but before it happened in 2007, defeated USC as a 40 or 41 point underdog. Well, look at what Jim Harbaugh made Stanford. Is that going to happen with Tim Skipper and UCLA or anybody and UCLA? And of course, Pete Carroll wasn't losing games against anybody, really. At USC, he had a dynasty. He had a great program. He has nothing to be embarrassed about. He led one of the great programs in the history of recent college football. No, this is James Franklin just being James Franklin to another level, another degree. So the question's going to hit me many times tonight as we go to our post-game show after the primetime games. Should Penn State fire James Franklin, or is James Franklin going to get fired by Penn State? Well, I got to think that, number one, I don't know. The buyout is enormous. He just signed a new contract, had his contract extended recently. And so that buyout, as of just maybe a year and a half ago, was $85 million. So that's number one. There is a financial consideration, to be sure. Then secondly, Penn State just lost the second game. And I know it looks ridiculous and it looks pathetic and people want to win championships. And so the Penn State faithful say enough's enough. We want to win championships. We don't care about going 10-2 and going to the playoffs. And now we get embarrassed and we're going to be the laughingstock of college football in a different way now after this loss to a team that was nothing but beatable. But I can't answer the question as to whether Penn State cares that much. Of course they care about football. This is a rich tradition. One of the great football programs in the history of college football, one of the top 10. And they've been even better, think of this, under James Franklin, on average, than their history, meaning their winning percentage has been better than their overall winning percentage. So James Franklin is doing the job against the likes of Rutgers and Maryland and Michigan State on a week-to-week basis. So I will ask the Penn State administration the same question that seemed to be the answer that the University of Georgia and Louisiana State University came to, where they arrived in the cases of Mark Richt and Les Miles. When they were fired, I was asked, should they have been fired? These guys are finishing in the top 10 in the country on a consistent basis. For Les Miles, a national championship plus another BCS championship game appearance. So 2 natty appearances, 1 victory for Mark Richt. Never got to that level. Came mighty close. And of course, in a different iteration of college football, Mark Richt's career would be much, much different in a 4 or 12 team playoff. But should they have been fired? And my answer was, if LSU and Georgia, and I will say the same thing about Penn State, if they determine that winning 9 or 10 games in the regular season each season and going to the college football playoff most of the time, because they may not make it this year, this team's got to beat Indiana, Iowa on the road, and Ohio State now to make the playoff. So they'll probably miss it this year. But making the playoff most of the time in a 12-team field, soon to be a 16-team field, we would think in the next 5 years, and win 9 or 10 games and get bounced repeatedly from the playoffs, lose to the elite teams, never reach the Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan level in the Big Ten, but make money, go to major bowl games, go to playoffs, earn that Big Ten media paycheck. If that's what Penn State is looking for, then James Franklin will keep his job. But if they come to the same conclusion that LSU and Georgia came to say, good coach, really good coach, consistent winner, but not a champion, and we are looking to win championships, number one, and number two, we can argue that we are paying for championships because Les Miles, because Mark Richt, and because now James Franklin is being paid top 5 money in the country. Therefore, it can be justified, yes. So that has always been my take on the Penn State situation as these years have mounted, these years of good, not elite, these years of good and not champion. That's how I have always stated this. That if I were Penn State, I would determine, is good enough? And then you always run the risk, who are we going to get to replace Bo Pelini? Who are we going to get to replace Jimbo Fisher? Who are we going to get to replace James Franklin? Are we going to go from really, really good to really, really mediocre and get lost in a tough Big Ten? Or can we identify the guy that can get us to where we want to go? Well, if you believe in yourself, if you believe in your ability to pick out talent, and if you are in that place of leadership at a place like Penn State University, you should have that type of confidence, and you should be capable of making that choice and that decision. So yes, Penn State should fire James Franklin if they go fill in the record this year, 8-4, 9-3, miss the playoffs. And it's another disappointment in Happy Valley with a team that has been primed. So this is not just another Penn State team. This is a team that is primed to win a national championship from a roster standpoint. It was all supposed to come together this year for Penn State, and it clearly has not. All right, your thoughts, your comments, your questions down below right here at the Voice of College Football. We will see you each and every night, including tonight, Saturday night postgame, right here at the Voice of College Football. Join the best chat in all of college football.